Good morning, Tim. Oh, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Paul. Really good. Thanks very much, first of all, for reaching out to me.
Yeah,
It's been a
yeah,
while since I've talked about all this music stuff, so it's pretty cool. Thanks very much, bro. Really appreciate it.
yeah. I give Jay Reardon a shout out. He said to get in touch with you. He said
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
All the old boys. We gave a lot of those guys. It was quite interesting. A lot of those guys came through the conspiracy.
yeah,
Um, And we helped a lot of those guys and gave them their first DJ nights. But I suppose we should go back to where it all began from a musical standpoint for us lot. Um, I was I was always a bit of an entrepreneur. Always looking for the next idea of how to put some money in my pocket.
yeah,
Um, but I'd always had a real infinity for music. Um, I came from my mother was actually a singer. My grandmother was actually a stage actress. So in the background, there was always a bit of music in my blood. Um, my first kind of nightclub kind of experiences were like the under 16 clubs. We used to
yeah,
go to like Berlin and Annabelle's. They were some clubs that anybody who sees this who was there but back in the day will remember.
yeah,
And as we got a little bit older, we kind of all kind of moved into the Gallery nightclub.
yeah,
That's where I met people like Tomlin.
yeah,
We became very, very good friends at that point in time. And the guy that owned the place, Mario, ended up becoming one of my real close associates. And we had like a 10-year journey with Mario after meeting him at the gallery. He was one of the owners there. So after I kind of kind of moved on from the gallery and started going over to the Hacienda and got into the whole dance music thing. And I kind of really liked it because I just felt at that time the soul music was getting very repetitive. And it's one thing about kind of black clubs. You know, a lot of the soul clubs, they'll find a track that they'll like and they'll just play that track for 10 years. And people will enjoy it. They'll shout tune, tune, they'll be having a good time. But to me, it was kind of boring after a while. So
yeah,
I found the happy end as something new and something quite interesting. Um, some of my friends were kind of making music at the time. People like a guy called Gerald. Gerald
oh,
Simpson was
wow. Yeah,
Gerald was a very, very close friend of mine. I went to school, primary school with Gerald and his brother
yeah,
David, and we were all brought up on the same estate. So I knew
yeah,
Gerald very well. Some of the other guys that were involved at the time, people like Kermit, Paul Leverage. He had a band called the Ruthless Rap Assassins at the time,
yeah. I
and
saw
so
them.
there was a couple of guys that I knew who were black kids from Moss Side who were actually going over to the house. So I kind of transitioned over there and kind of hung out with those guys a little bit.
Yeah,
Um, while I was there, I met a lot of interesting people. I kind of met the guys from the Happy Mondays. Bez became a very, very good friend of mine. Shaun Ryder, I got to know very well. Um, the guys from Stone Roses, I became very, very close friends with them. So all of a sudden, there was this emerging kind of group of people that were all involved in music from many different angles. And ecstasy happened. And
yeah,
everybody was kind of off their heads, jumping around, listening to house music. It was a phenomenal period of time.
yeah,
But the big problem that we found was that everybody, after the clubs finished, after the hacienda finished, there was nowhere to go. So we used to kind of pile back to people's houses and play music, and neighbors used to complain, and it was all kind of problems. So I thought to myself, hey, I can see an opportunity here. There's like 50 to 100 people that all want to party every night,
yeah,
or party at the weekend, should I say, after the clubs are finished. So I kind of started throwing parties. So the first party we threw was in Hulme, very close to the Mancunian Way. It lasted for about 3 hours before it got raided by the police. I tried again a few weeks later, opened another one, lost it again. And I must have opened about 6 parties. Every single one of them got raided.
yeah,
So I was pretty much just about to give up at that point in time. And I came across a friend of mine who mentioned a recording studio that was in, I think it was Charles Barry Crescent, right next door to the PSV Club, the Russell at the time.
yeah,
So I went to meet the guy. His name was Jamie, really interesting cat. He'd kind of built this kind of community recording studio. And there was a lot of really good artists playing out of there. People, what's his name called? Oh, his name will come to me in a minute. I'll think of his name in a minute. I always forget his kid's name, but he recorded out. He became very famous, and I kind of did a deal with him. He was kind of throwing parties there ad hoc. So I said to him, look, let me just take the place over. I'll open on a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night, and I'll pay you X amount of money for the venue. And he was more than happy to do it. People were throwing parties in there before. I wasn't the first person to open an event in there. And the first night we opened, we got about like 400 people in there. We just put a few flyers. Yeah, put a few flyers around the end. And everybody turned up. It was just unbelievable. So we charged everybody.
Midweek night?
Sorry?
Was it a weekend or was it a midweek one?
Yeah, we opened the first night at the weekend. We did Friday and Saturday night to start with. Yeah. And then Hacienda they had some really good nights in there. I think it was a Wednesday or a Thursday. They had a night called Hot that was during the week. So we used to throw parties after that as well. And then we were pretty much going Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday night after that. So basically, we had two flats kind of knocked into one. And we had an area downstairs, which was the main dance floor area, then the recording studio upstairs. And it was just absolutely nutty. I mean, my goodness, everybody was there as well. I mean, everybody turned up. I mean, one particular night, I'll never forget it. Salt and Pepper, Push It Good, the hip hop. They turned up. They'd been in Manchester that night.
Salt and Pepper came.
Yeah, man, and it was wicked. So we all went up into the recording studio room. And Salt and Pepper were vibes in, doing some rapping, and then I think it was Manny from Stone Roses. He was playing the drums. Bez was playing the maracas. Shaun Ryder was doing a little vocals too, and it was just, I kicked myself because we didn't take any photographs in those days. Nobody had digital cameras in those days. You know what I mean? This is like 1988 or 1989 or something, So, we had a lot of these really crazy nights in there. I mean, it was a year and a half probably of just unbelievable partying. We never had any trouble in there. The police never turned up. We never got any complaints because everybody who lived in, the buildings were ready for to be condemned. They were planning on, obviously rebuilding Hulme in those days. And, so the people that were there were all kind of like the traveler type kind of people, people who go to Glastonbury, live in those big trucks, Mad Max looking people.
Yeah.
So, these people didn't complain, and the ones that had a bit of a problem, we just used to invite them in and give them free drinks all night. So they were happy as Larry,
Yeah.
So it was a really good situation. The music was fantastic. I had Tomlin and Chris playing from the Jam MCs. Unbelievable music. It was the music was a completely different vibe from house music. We were playing more. When I say house music, the more boom 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 house music. We were playing more kind of deep house, soul, hip hop, funk. A lot of stuff by guys like Marshall Jefferson and a lot of like the early Detroit and Chicago kind of sound, Fingers Incorporated, that kind of stuff, really kind of deep stuff. And man, the crowd just absolutely loved it. And it was the first time a lot of these people had actually heard this type of music. And what was really cool that I thought more than anything else was the integration of people. Because unlike a nightclub, we were in a small venue. So everybody got to know each other very well. And I would say it was really one of the first times that like middle-class white folk and inner city black kids had kind of got together in the same room. Now, there wasn't very many black kids in there, but there was a lot of like inner city kids. Most of the kids were from North Manchester. From areas like Miles Platting and all that, Miles Platting and guys like Eddie Beef and who else was in there back there? Fat Neck. I mean, these were all pretty infamous guys back in those days. Fat Neck is most famous for being the guy that stood in the Manchester United picture and faked it. Are you aware of that?
Right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, he did a load of stuff. He did like F1, he did Wimbledon, and just basically jumped on the court and pretended he was that person, So But he's a character and a half, that mate. Good pal of mine.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of those types of people in there. A lot of the emerging bands were in there. There was never any trouble in there. It was just everybody was off their heads anyway. So I mean, the last thing in the world people wanted was to have any trouble.
Yeah.
So we ran the kitchen for a while, and then one particular night, the police came in to see me and told me basically it was the last week. We were shutting the place down. So we opened the following week. We opened 7 nights a week. And the reason they said, we opened for 7 nights a week because it was basically the end of it, and everybody knew. So we sold out every night. I mean, we were putting like anything up to 1,000 people in there on a given night. I mean, it was fucking crazy in there. So we ran that party for a week, and on the very last night, I must say, it was like a morgue in there. Everybody was really pissed off and sad because this was an institution that was just about to close down.
Yeah.
And going back to the gentleman that I spoke about, Mario from the gallery, this is where he comes in now. Mario came up to me that night and said to me, "Look, at the end of the night, Tim, come and see me, find me. I've got something to show you." I said, "Okay, no problem." And by the end of the night, I kind of forgot all about it. But, all the way through the night, kept on coming back to the kitchen where we used to sell the alcohol. I said, don't forget. I've got something to show you. So anyway, we've kind of finished the venue that night, and we've cleaned up a little bit, and we're just about to leave. And then my partner, Pricey, says to me, "Look, remember that guy Mario, man? He was talking about we have to meet him tonight." I said, "I've not seen that guy for a few hours." So I ended up walking around the place. I go to the bathroom, and the guy's there. He is asleep in the bath. So I wake him up. We all go out downstairs. He goes, "All right, get a taxi. I've got to take you somewhere." So anyway, we jump in a taxi, and he took us to Fennel Street, underneath the Corn Exchange. And he took out these keys and started opening the door. And basically, he bought a nightclub. And he wanted to transfer all of the team, my team, from the kitchen and make us the kind of promotional directors there. And he basically bought us a nightclub. And it was the old Pips. Yeah. Which was a very famous club in the 1970s, a very famous club in the 70s and 80s. We had 6 rooms in there. Yeah. So we fitted the place out. It took about 4 months of build out. And one of the cool things about that venue, other than it just being a phenomenal musical extravaganza, it really was. We had like 5 rooms in there, all playing different types of music, all different types of house music. One of the great things about that venue was the fact that I had to keep on renewing the DJs. We had a couple of DJs that were kind of like in-house, but the majority of the rooms, we were putting new DJs in on a regular basis. So this kind of spurred the beginning of my DJ agency. So I started now having every DJ in the country's telephone number. But 4 or 5 months into the conspiracy, we get a call from the ID magazine. Now, in those days, there were 2 Bible magazines in those days. There was Face magazine, and then there was ID. And if you could get your club or yourself into any of those magazines, you kind of made it in the dance world industry as far as we were concerned. Yeah. But we got a call that day to every year, the ID picked some of the best clubs in Europe to have the ID World Tour party. Yeah. And they picked us. Yeah. And they interviewed us, and we got like a double-page spread in there. It was fucking crazy shit. I never knew that. Yeah, it was crazy, man. So we had some of the great DJs playing there that night. I can't remember who was on the bill. I think we brought Alfredo from Pasha, and it was a fantastic. But then Candy Flip, they played that night. They just broke heavy with Strawberry Fields Forever. Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to. That was a big track of the day. So they played, and a few of the kind of Manchester bands played, and some international bands. It was a big night. So we got a lot of press from that. They did a big interview on us, and lo and behold, one of the guys in the States, the guy I ended up, years later, I went to the States, and he got that. He read that article. Yeah. So after we did the ID World Tour party, the magazine article basically was the ID was sold all over the world, and especially in the US, because they love British nightclub culture. And a gentleman saw it called Chris Pacello.
Yeah.
Now, Chris was a pretty infamous nightclub runner in New York, and he just bought a huge venue in Miami. Now, at the time, Miami was a place that old people went to die.
Yeah.
It was kind of like similar to like maybe Southport, one of those types of places. You know, there was no nightclubs there. Bars had to shut before 10 o'clock. But he was an Italian gentleman, and he worked for an Italian organization, should we say. And one of the things that they focused on was putting a mayor into place that could change the rules. Yeah. So they kind of backed the new mayor. That was a gay guy. They didn't win the first time. A year later, they won. And when he came into power, he changed all the regulations in Miami as far as the nightclub industry. Now, they'd already bought their building, so they were just waiting for him to get into power. And as soon as he got into power, that's when Chris reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to come over there? So he flew me over to the States, to Miami, and broke it all down to me, what he was doing, showed me the venue, said it's going to take 7 or 8 months to build out. And what he was interested in was, you know, me doing special events, you know, getting involved in the musical side of it. And for nights that I wasn't doing that, I could work the VIP and do the English butler routine. He says, you know, being a black Englishman, they're going to love that in the VIP. So I was like, yeah, cool, no problem, I'll do that. Paid me great money to do it. So I worked for Chris for 7 years. We had a great time. You know, it was the kind of venue where, I mean, Madonna was the business partner there. I mean, the Madonna. Wow. She was there. She was there before Guy Ritchie, before she got involved with Guy Ritchie. Yeah. So the kind of people that were turning up in the VIP on it, I mean, one particular night, I mean, there was Kate Moss there. I got to know Naomi Campbell very, very, very well. She was always in there. We had Michael Jordan in the VIP one night, Jack Nicholson, sorry. I mean, Danny DeVito, I was with, I had a night with Oliver Stone one night. I mean, it was just celebrities after celebrity after celebrity after celebrity. And there I was, this kid from my side, you know, just kind of like, I was pinching myself sometimes, you know, thinking, what the fuck am I doing in here? Yeah, I mean, one particular, I mean, I'm a movie fan. I'm a big, big, big movie fan. Yeah. So one particular night, Oliver Stone turns up. Now, Oliver Stone, Natural Born Killers, JFK, you know, the trilogy of the Vietnam movies. I mean, he's basically catalogued American history with his movies. He's one of the greatest directors in the world. And I got talking to him, and he said to me, man, you're really into your film, aren't you? I said, yeah, man. I said, I know who you are. I know what you're about. I love your movies. So he's gone to my boss and says, is there any chance of this guy not working tonight? I want to sit down and talk movies with him. So I'm like, shit, you know, that's one thing you don't do, take a night off when you work for the mob. So I apologized to the boss. Don't ever let this happen again, you know. I said, okay, cool. So anyway, I sat down all night with Oliver Stone talking movies. Wow. Now, here's the cool part of the story. That isn't even the cool part of the story. Here's the cool part of the story. So he's telling me, we get down to the facts of where I came from. He was really interested in my background. I mean, genuinely interested in who I was and where I came from. And I don't think he'd ever really spoke to an inner city black guy before from England. So I said to him, I'm from Manchester, but I'm originally born in Cardiff. I was brought up in, you know, I lived in Cardiff for like 6 months of my life when I was a kid before I moved to Manchester. He says, wow, you know, he said, it's really funny. You know, I'm making a movie at the moment. And I did an audition with a guy the other day, a Welsh guy. He goes, for the life of me, I can't remember what this guy was called. Anthony something. Anthony. So I said, what's the movie you're making? He says, well, I'm making Nixon, President Nixon. So I said to him, okay, cool. So he's like, what the hell is this guy? And he said, just don't say anything for a minute. I need to think about this guy's name. And he went, anyway, you know who he was talking about? Sir Anthony Hopkins. Yeah. So anyway, at the end of the conversation, I said to him, so who are you thinking about giving, you know, who are you thinking about giving the role? He said, you know something, Tim? I'm going to give it to Anthony. So I actually knew Sir Anthony Hopkins was getting the role of that movie for Nixon before he did. But that was a cool story.
Yeah.
And but yeah, cool. I spent a night with Prince one night as well. I must say he was a bit
What
of
with
an,
Prince?
yeah, Prince was in there. Well, I mean, I don't like to speak ill of the dead, but he was an absolute fucking asshole. Um, I mean, yeah, I'm sorry, Prince. I mean, you're a musical genius, man, but man, you got some serious issues. I mean, we had this VIP that was like 40 tables long. It was like double 40 tables. You had 40 tables on the wall, a gangway in the middle for the waitresses to move around, and 40 tables at the end. 40 tables on this side. I mean, it was huge. So the waitresses are moving around. There's only 3 waitresses in there, so they're moving trays to try because you've got 80 tables, and they're moving champagne and all the best drink. I mean, all the best drinks in the world were moving around in that VIP all night. And Prince, he had this white suit on, this white top hat with these perspex high heels. I'll never forget it. And this white cane with like a perspex kind of globe on the top. And he was just stood there right in the middle of the gangway in a freeze frame. And I'm like this to him all night. I mean, I didn't even know what to call him because he just changed his name to the sign. So I was calling him Mr. Prince. So I said to the guy, look, you're going to have to move, man. I mean, you can't stand there like that. I said, the waitresses, man, it's killing him. So
Yeah.
he was like, I remember he kept on whispering. Now the music is pumping, pumping, pumping. And I'm like, what are you saying, man? Just speak up. And then it was like, I want to go to the bathroom. So anyway, I took him to the bathroom. He says, I can't go in there. I says, why not? He goes, there's other people in there. So I had to get everybody out the bathroom so Prince could go to the bathroom. And then after that, I brought him back to the VIP. He whispers in my ears again. I couldn't hear what the guy was saying. He says, I want to go to the dance floor. So I take him to the dance floor. He goes, no, 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 no. I can't dance on that dance floor with all those people on it. We had to move everybody off the dance floor so Prince could dance. I mean, come on, bro. So that was one
Oh, wow.
particular night. We had another night with Michael because we had a night in there called Fat Black Pussycat, which was like a 70s funk kind of night, playing stuff like Curtis Mayfield and that kind of black exploitation periods
Yeah.
kind of music. All that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
And then in the back room, they had a hip hop room, which was like New York hip hop. It was just like jump around, jump out. It was just live in there, crazy night. So, but that was on a Monday night. Now, if you know anything about sports in America, Monday night is basketball night.
Yeah.
So we have a team called the Miami Heat, which were one of the great teams in the US at the time, coached by a guy called Pat Riley. He was one of the great, great coaches. And so every Monday, depending if you were playing home or away, we used to get a lot of the US basketball players coming in. So I met a lot of the guys. I met Shaquille O'Neal at the time. Alonzo Mourning was the big guy at Miami Heat at the time. But then there was another guy that came in one night who was pretty much known by everybody in the world, Mr. Michael Jordan. So
Wow.
anyway, we were playing the Bulls that night. We got our asses kicked. And we were all praying that Jordan was going to turn up that night. I mean, he's renowned as a bit of a party animal, so we thought he would turn up. So anyway, I got the call from down because I'm in the VIP, so I get the call from on my walkie-talkie saying Mr. Jordan's at the door downstairs. He's coming up. Can you make space for him? Make sure he's got a table ready. Blah, 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 blah. So I arrange a table for him, get it all set up. And he comes up the stairs, and just as you get to the top of the stairs, that's where the dance floor is. So we made the DJ aware that Michael Jordan was in the house, and I'll never forget it. It was like Moses parting the Red Sea. He walked in, all 6'8" of him, in this big white suit, looking $1 million, and he just, my God, he had this aura around him. He looked like Jesus Christ himself had walked into the fucking nightclub, bro. And the whole place just parted for him. And everybody just had a smile on the face, just clapping. And he raised his hand to everybody. And it's like, and I just remember the DJ, Michael Jordan has entered the house. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. That was a big night, man.
What was
So,
the
yeah,
club
man, we had.
called, Tim? What was the
Sorry?
club called?
It was called Liquid.
Yeah.
Liquid. It was based on a street car. It was on 1470 Washington Avenue in South Beach in Miami.
I can't
But
believe
yeah,
that came from the conspiracy. I can't believe that conspiracy led on to all that.
Yeah, I mean the K from the conspiracy, because the conspiracy was spelled with a K rather than a C. The K came from the kitchen,
All right.
so that's where it came from,
How long was it open? I was talking to someone yesterday, and we couldn't remember how long it was open for, the conspiracy. Was it about
Oh,
a year?
we got about 13 months out of it.
Yeah,
I left there after 10 months because I just couldn't take it. We were right in the middle of all the violence in Manchester, it was right.
yeah,
We opened up November 1989
yeah.
and we lasted for 13 months. It was terrible. I mean, it should have been one of the greatest nightclubs in the country, and it was for a period of time. Of that, there was no doubt.
Do you know when you were
We
saying
emptied the
before,
house.
Tim? Like I forgot that. So I only went a few times, but I remember when I first went in, it wasn't that busy. So I must have gone like midweek early on. But I remember
Yeah,
all the rooms. I remember it stood out because it had so many different rooms, and I forgot that it was Pips. So it had about 5 rooms,
yeah.
didn't it? Like you say?
We had the big room upstairs, the main room,
Yeah,
and then downstairs one level. We had the big room. Then we had a small back room. Then you go down to the base floor. There was a small jazz room downstairs. Victor Brox used to play in there, playing jazz and blues. And then we had the caves at the very back of the club. Now, the caves were quite interesting. They were made by, they were literally kind of polystyrene caves. And the guy that painted John Lennon's famous Rolls Royce in the 1960s, he
yeah.
painted the caves.
Did I?
He came in and he worked with us every day. Yeah, it was this guy was fucking wild, crazy, but an amazing. I mean, you talk about the crazy kind of genius artist. This guy was the cardboard cutout.
Yeah,
I mean, he was buck wild crazy, but one of the greatest. I mean, I say that as a term of endearment because he was a beautiful human being. You know what I mean? He was just out there, and his art was just phenomenal. Yeah, it was just inspiring. So the caves were really, really cool. So people like we had a team that used to kind of house in there DJs from the Eastern Bloc guys, Justin Robertson
yeah, yeah,
and Greg Fenton. They
yeah.
used to have a crew called Spice.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah. I forgot about
you
that.
know, launched. I mean, I don't mean to. I mean, Justin's all of those guys are very talented DJs. I'm not gonna. They put the work in, but we launched a lot of those guys. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
um, Jay Weirden, for example. Jay Weirden was. We pretty much launched his career. I mean, I'm not going to take credit because these guys put the work in,
yeah,
got to where
yeah,
they needed to be and put the work in. But it was just more about, and I want to change that terminology. I think we gave them an early platform.
yeah, yeah,
I think that's a better way to say it. I'm not going to say we launched their careers, but we gave them an early platform. And
yeah,
it was difficult to get a large venue clubs like the Hacienda were the only real venues around at that time playing that type of music. So there wasn't very many venues
yeah,
that were accessible
yeah,
to DJs playing. There wasn't very many. So we made our place accessible.
yeah,
We always had the philosophy that we were all working class kids,
yeah,
and we knew how difficult it was for us. We were black as well. We were a black team, and that was another issue. You know what I mean? It was like, times have changed a lot. In those days, we were very different. Being a group of, there was me, Chris, Pricey, Tomlin, and it wasn't easy. In those days, it wasn't easy at all. You automatically got stereotyped as a drug
yeah,
dealer or a trouble causer or this or that or this or that. And there we were just trying to, make an honest living in the game.
yeah,
So it was a strange time, but there were a lot of good people in those days. That were people like Leo B. Stanley from Identity.
yeah,
He was a diamond. Always supported us as people. The guys from Eastern Bloc
yeah,
Records. Big love to those guys. They were always kind of like, we did a lot of work with them. We put them on at the club. They helped us a lot with ID World Tour Party. Um, yeah, because 808 State played. That was right. The 808 State played. They played
yeah, yeah,
Pacific, whatever, Pacific State. That was a big
yeah,
track at the time.
yeah,
So yeah, they played the ID World Tour Party. So we had a lot of fun. So we had a good, people who were into music And fashion as well, you know, because we did a lot of work with the guys from Geese. I always remember that shop, Geese. That was a really big. It
How
was
long
in.
was Geese open?
Well, Geese had two separate shops, didn't they? They had the first shop was on Backfold Street, which was on off Cross Street, a little back street, um, um, directly across the road from that very old pub on Cross Street, very old pub, like across from the where would we be now? Like if you come
I
out
know
the
what you
back door
mean.
of if
Yeah,
you come out the back door of Boots, you know, Boots the chemist,
yeah,
and you come onto Cross Street, you would take a left. Go straight down that road, and it was a little side street there. It was called Backfold Street. So Geese opened their first shop there,
yeah.
and the guy who used to run the place, I think it was Karen and Steve. Yeah, they used to do some stuff with us as well, with fashion and fashion shows, and yeah, it was a lot. Very cool. Then they opened their place in the Royal Exchange upstairs.
Yeah. Because I knew it was the Royal Exchange, but I did a video with Bill Smart. I'm going to release that this week, and he did it on fashion and Pablo Banquito, and he mentioned Geese, and it confused me because I thought, but Geese didn't come about till the Royal Exchange in
Yeah,
1989.
they were there before that. Yeah,
Oh
Backfold
yeah,
Street, man. Yeah, Billy's good people, man. Billy's one of my good friends. I mean, you know, Billy was one of those breakthrough guys, you know, who managed to not only was he black, he was gay, which
yeah,
he had like pretty much two strikes against him as far as the system was concerned, you know. And the way he managed to break through into the city centre system,
yeah,
I used to look up to Billy a lot. You know, I still do. I got a lot. I mean, I still speak to Billy up to this day. You know, I do a lot of art now, and Billy was one of the first people to actually purchase one of my pieces. You know, so I've still got a lot of love for. I've still got a lot of love for Billy as well. You know, I've been a hell of a lot of respect for him. You know, he's one of those guys that really opened the door for guys like me to get into the
yeah,
city centre because it was
yeah,
closed. It was really closed. I mean, trust me, it wasn't easy. Um, so yeah, you know, it's been quite an interesting journey over the last few years, to say the least. And now I'm in Thailand now. You know, I'm living over here in Thailand now.
yeah.
I've been in Southeast Asia on and off now since about 2017, 2018. I came over here for a couple of weeks. I was living in Spain for 7 years when I came back from the US. I stayed in England for a couple of years, got really pissed off with it, and then moved to Spain. And I started flying from Spain to Thailand, and I came here for the first time and just absolutely fell in love with the place, man. I mean, it's like fucking so cool. The people, they don't have, you know, they don't even understand what racism is. They don't
Yeah,
even have a word for it. They don't even have a word for it over here, you know.
yeah,
They got all that Buddhist thing going on. You know, anything you do in life will come back and bite you in the neck. So note that the crime rate's really low. I mean, you can leave your mobile telephone on the fucking floor in a
yeah,
bar. Someone will pick it up and put it to, I mean, they don't steal. They just don't. It's just not in their nature. They just can't understand why people do it.
yeah.
The food out here is phenomenal. I live right on the beach, so I'm like 50 meters from the water. I just stay in hotels. That's all I do because it's so cheap to live here. You know, I can get a hotel for like, you know, 207, £250 a month, £300 a month. I can live in a hotel, you know, and it's great. I don't have to worry about a thing, you know. So
So I
it's
always
great.
aim for about half hour to 40 minutes, Tim. And I like to end them with try and think of a favourite track that takes you back to the kitchen.
The kitchen. Oh man. Well, I could tell you probably there was a particular night that I will never quite forget, which is we we were told by the police we couldn't open anymore, but we did open for one more night, so they kind of raided us that night. But we had a bit of an escape plan. So me and Pricey, we ended up getting out with the money and all the rest of the bits and pieces that we had available. And there's a couple of girls, and we asked them to put us in the boot of their car. And they were off their head. They've been fucking eating ecstasy all night. Wasn't the best people to have driving the car, I'll tell you that. So we ended up going into the boot of the car. So we got into the boot of the car. They closed the car. They ended up driving. They were living in Birmingham. They put the music on so loud. They completely forgot that we were in the back of in the boot. They drove us all the way to Birmingham. And And it wasn't until the music stopped and we were banging and kicking the car that they realized that there were those two guys in the back, Tim and Pricey. We ended up staying in those girls' house for 2 days after that. Both of them got fired. They both lost their jobs. But we had a whale of a time that day. Yeah. But, you know, the kitchen was just full of unexpected. You never knew what was going to happen, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, we had a few pretty sad situations as well where there was, I mean, I opened the DJ agency, so I left my partner running the kitchen party. And I get a phone call from him. I said to him, is everything going on? Is everything okay? He goes, no, we've got this guy outside who used to be a gymnast, and he's balancing on the veranda and using it like a beam, like he's in the Olympics. Now we're like 60 foot, we're third floor,
Yeah.
60 foot up in the air.
Yeah.
And I said to him, look, just get the guy out of there and ban him from the party, take him downstairs and put him in a taxi. Pay for the taxi, send him home. So anyway, my partner didn't do that. Anyway, lo and behold, the guy went back on there again and he fell off the building.
Wow.
50 foot down.
Yeah.
Fortunately, he landed on a grass verge.
Yeah.
Broke a few bones in his body, but lived to tell the tale. Now he's completely all right, and he's turned into one of the world's great photographers. So he bumped his head and something kind of worked out.
Yeah.
He turned into one of the great photographers in the world. So I don't know. Maybe he's, maybe.
What's his name?
Oh, I can't remember. My sister knows him very well. Yeah, I've always kept in touch with him through my sister. But my sister says, yeah, he's doing fine. He's doing really good. But yeah, so that was another one of the.
Have you got a track for us, Tim?
A piece of music.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'd probably go with. I'd probably go with Joe Smooth's "Promised Land."
Yeah, yeah. Good choice.
I'd probably, that's very apt. And I'd probably also, in homage to the time, I'd probably go with Fingers Inc. Anything from Fingers Incorporated, because Fingers Inc. were just my band. I just used to love that kind of dark Chicago, Detroit kind of moody type of vibe, So anything from that era, bit of Marshall Jefferson. And I loved when they overlaid Martin Luther King's speech over Can You Feel It?
Yeah.
That was just, it was, that brought tears to my eyes the first time I heard it. So yeah, it was all good. So it was cool, man. I really enjoyed that. It was very cool. I hope it works out with the video.
Yeah, I'll just stop recording now and then we can carry on the chat.
Cool.